Beyoncé for sure. I love her. I love Beyoncé. Jay-Z too, I really admire the both.
Rihanna just shook the internet with a shocking reaction to the new Netflix Diddy documentary, straight up calling it fake news and hinting that major details were conveniently left out. She didn't hold back either, pointing toward what she claims are hidden connections involving Beyoncé and the entire controversy, and people online immediately went wild. According to what Rihanna suggested, there were private gatherings involving Diddy that allegedly included some of the biggest names in music, and she implied that Beyoncé's name keeps coming up in ways the documentary never touched. These are claims that, if true, could completely change how fans look at hip-hop's most powerful inner circles, especially with the documentary exploding to over 21 million views in its first week. Rihanna didn't stop at calling out the project's credibility. She went even further, hinting that Beyoncé may not have been just someone on the sidelines, but someone aware of, or connected to, what was going on behind closed doors. She framed it as questions the public deserves answers to, not confirmed facts, but the shock factor still hit hard. We've seen celebrity clashes before, but this situation hits way different. This isn't some random tabloid back and forth. This is Rihanna, someone who spent years carefully shaping her image, now publicly calling out one of the most protected figures in music and tying that name to Diddy's most disturbing controversies. People close to the situation say Rihanna's words weren't casual at all. They claim her comments were placed very deliberately, dropped in a way that guaranteed the internet would explode within minutes. Every pause, every hint, every post felt intentional, and fans immediately picked up on it. Meanwhile, the documentary, executive produced by 50 Cent, already painted a dark picture of Diddy, covering serious allegations, past legal issues, and footage that showed panic behind the scenes before authorities stepped in. But Rihanna's move flipped the entire narrative on its head. Instead of letting the focus stay on the documentary, she redirected attention straight toward Beyoncé, someone treated like royalty by a global fan base that analyzes every breath she takes. Rihanna didn't make direct accusations, but her hints suggested connections that go far deeper than simple rumors or personal drama. If even a small part of what Rihanna implied turns out to be accurate, this isn't about jealousy or old industry tension. This could shake the carefully built public story surrounding two of the most powerful music families ever, and once those cracks show, there's no easy way to cover them back up. Now let's rewind and break down why this moment matters so much. The Netflix series already sent serious shockwaves through the industry, pulling back the curtain on long-standing allegations tied to Diddy's behavior over the years. The documentary included testimony from former associates and public accounts from individuals who described toxic environments, intense pressure, and troubling patterns connected to his inner circle. But this is where Rihanna's comments hit hardest. Despite all its revelations, the documentary allegedly avoided digging into the deeper relationships between Diddy, Jay-Z, and Beyoncé, connections Rihanna strongly hinted were impossible to ignore. And she's not just some outsider throwing random claims around. Rihanna has been directly linked to Jay-Z in the past through widely discussed rumors, which makes her perspective feel a lot closer to the situation than people might want to admit. For years, fans have whispered about tension between Rihanna and Beyoncé, analyzing lyrics, interviews, and public moments for hidden meaning. Now, with Rihanna dropping these new hints, some believe those long-running theories suddenly feel less random. If her suggestions about involvement within Diddy's private circle hold any weight, the fallout wouldn't stop at personal drama. It could reach straight into Jay-Z's legacy, his business empire, and the carefully polished image surrounding one of music's most powerful couples. And the timing makes everything even more intense. Rihanna's remarks come as Jay-Z is already dealing with renewed public scrutiny following a recently surfaced civil lawsuit tied to past events, which remains unresolved and unproven. No conclusions have been made, but the overlap has only amplified public debate and raised even more uncomfortable questions across the industry. The plaintiff, identified only as Jane Doe, alleged that both men were present during an incident at a private residence, claims that Jay-Z's legal team quickly dismissed as stupid and a shameless publicity stunt. No findings have been made, and the case remains disputed. But the timing of Rihanna's comments has people paying close attention. Because if there's even a small chance that Beyoncé was connected to Diddy's inner circle the way Rihanna hinted, it raises a much bigger and more uncomfortable question. How many others around them knew what was happening, stayed silent, or looked the other way? And what does that say about an industry that protected power for decades? Now let's address the elephant nobody likes to talk about, the Rihanna and Beyoncé feud. This tension didn't start yesterday. For years, insiders have claimed the two stars were stuck in an icy standoff, with Jay-Z right in the middle of it all. Fans still point to the 2016 Grammys when Rihanna's album Anti was shut out of major categories while Lemonade dominated. Online chatter exploded, with people accusing the Academy of playing favorites and blocking Rihanna from outshining Beyoncé. Rihanna later liked posts calling out the Grammys before pulling back and urging unity among Black women. But by then, the energy had already shifted, and people still remember the 2015 press conference where the two reportedly refused to stand next to each other, forcing handlers to awkwardly keep them separated. Nothing was ever confirmed, but the tension was loud without a single word being spoken. Photographers managed to catch just one stiff, forced smile between them, but sources say behind the cameras the tension was loud and heavy. People close to the scene claimed the air was thick with unspoken rivalry, the kind you don't need words to feel. And now, with Rihanna's latest comments resurfacing, that long-running subtext is suddenly impossible to brush off. If Beyoncé was connected to Diddy's world in the way Rihanna hinted, without making direct claims, it raises a chilling thought. Could this feud be rooted in something much deeper than awards, charts, or professional competition? Some fans now wonder if Rihanna, long rumored to have had her own complicated history with Jay-Z, might know far more than she's ever publicly shared. And the timing of the Netflix documentary only adds more fuel to the chaos. The series dropped just months after Diddy's conviction, making it an instant lightning rod for backlash and debate. But the man behind the project, 50 Cent, is far from a neutral figure. He spent years publicly feuding with Diddy, even mocking him online throughout the legal process. When the documentary premiered, Diddy's team fired back, calling it a shameful hit piece built on stolen footage. His mother, Janice Combs, also released a strong statement, rejecting claims about her parenting as patently false. Still, despite the pushback, the series continues to gain attention. Even individuals connected to the trial have reportedly spoken out, sharing doubts and unanswered questions that keep the controversy alive and growing. One juror later admitted they struggled with the human trafficking charge, explaining that, in their view, domestic violence wasn't what the case was officially centered on. Another juror described Diddy and Cassie's relationship as very, very complicated, suggesting a situation where power, pressure, and consent were deeply tangled together. Now, with Rihanna's comments entering the conversation, the narrative shifts again, because if Beyoncé truly moved within that same world as Rihanna implied without making direct claims, the question isn't just about actions. It becomes about awareness. What did she know? When did she know it? And why was nothing ever said publicly? But things get even messier when you look back at what the documentary already revealed. It outlined allegations that Diddy sought control over people around him, including disturbing accounts from Cassie describing exhausting multi-day situations she felt pressured into.
And I'm not saying allegedly.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying, Sean Carter, you're a piece of shit. Taking Pimp C wasn't bad enough. You just want to go down there and you want to just remove all of the balls from every real gangster in Houston.
Former assistants also shared troubling stories about intimidation and fear, painting a picture of an environment driven by dominance and silence. So if Beyoncé was present in any part of that circle, as Rihanna hinted, it forces uncomfortable questions. Was she caught in the same system, willingly involved, or stuck somewhere in the middle? And what does that say about the powerful men nearby? Especially figures like Jay-Z, who built massive empires while remaining publicly silent. At this point, this story isn't just about one person anymore. It points toward a much bigger network of influence, fame, and protection that may have operated unchecked for years. And let's not forget the money side of it all. Diddy's conviction didn't just lead to prison time, it triggered serious financial fallout. His legal team is facing a flood of civil lawsuits with more than 50 cases still pending, keeping the pressure high and the spotlight burning bright. An empire that was once valued in the billions is now visibly cracking. At the same time, Jay-Z's own business ventures have started facing renewed scrutiny, from resurfaced discussions about past financial moves to renewed attention on old associations that fans never fully forgot. And here's why people think this matters so much. If Rihanna's hints gain real traction online, the domino effect could be massive. Because if Beyoncé truly had deeper ties to Diddy's world, as Rihanna suggested, without stating outright, it naturally raises questions about Jay-Z's exposure too. This isn't just about one past lawsuit or one headline. It's about how many unresolved issues might still be lingering in the background. With Diddy already behind bars, the focus is shifting fast. The question isn't only what he did, but who else might get pulled into the fallout as more people start talking. And then there are the fans, the real accelerators of this entire firestorm. Social media is already exploding with theories. Some believe Rihanna's comments were a strategic hit aimed straight at Beyoncé's flawless public image. Others think this is the surface crack of a much bigger industry, silence finally breaking open. People are digging up old documentaries, past interviews, and long-buried stories. Some are revisiting claims that were never proven, while others point to publicists who later admitted to exaggerating or fabricating rumors years ago for publicity purposes. One former publicist, Jonathan Hay, has openly said a past story involving Rihanna and Jay-Z was manufactured as a PR move back in 2005. However, he also acknowledged that many rumors from that era were never backed by evidence and should not be treated as facts. Still, the sheer volume of resurfaced stories shows one thing clearly. Once the internet starts connecting dots, real or imagined, the pressure doesn't slow down, and the spotlight only grows hotter. Now, with Rihanna's comments out in the open, the pieces are lining up in a way that feels less like random timing and more like a pattern people can't ignore anymore. What once sounded like distant rumors is now being viewed through a much sharper lens, and the public is connecting dots faster than ever. But the loudest detail in all of this might be the silence. Beyoncé's team hasn't responded at all. Jay-Z's camp has stayed quiet. Diddy's legal team is buried in court battles and has no room for another public fight. And Rihanna, she hasn't clarified, denied, or expanded. She's letting the speculation breathe on its own. In an industry where image is currency, silence can be the most powerful move of all. Sometimes what isn't said creates more noise than any statement ever could. And right now, the public imagination is running completely wild, filling in gaps with theories, timelines, and unanswered questions. So where does that leave everyone? With more questions than answers. If Rihanna's hints are grounded in truth, what other stories are still hiding in the shadows of Diddy's former empire, waiting to surface? And if Beyoncé was ever connected to that world in ways not yet explained, what does that say about the powerful figures around her who benefited from keeping everything polished and protected? Men like Jay-Z, whose legacy has long been tied to success, influence, and cultural leadership. The Netflix documentary may have been framed as the final chapter in Diddy's downfall. But with this new wave of attention, it's starting to look more like the opening of a much bigger conversation that refuses to stay quiet any longer. But with Rihanna's comments now in the mix, this story clearly isn't finished. It feels like it's only getting started. And if history has shown us anything, it's that when it comes to hip-hop's elite, the full truth is usually the last thing to come out. Now let's peel back the layers a little deeper. If Beyoncé was connected to Diddy's private world in the way Rihanna hinted, without making direct accusations, some insiders believe it could help explain Jay-Z's long-standing silence during past controversies, silence that, until now, many people brushed off as strategic or calculated. This suddenly shifts the conversation into much darker territory, because we're no longer talking about a simple rivalry between two global superstars. We're talking about the possibility of a quiet agreement, a shared understanding, where powerful figures chose discretion over accountability. If even part of that speculation holds weight, the implications stretch far beyond personal drama. They point straight at an industry built on loyalty, protection, and influence, strong enough to keep uncomfortable stories buried for years. Some sources claim Beyoncé's connection went further than just being present at certain gatherings, though nothing has been proven. These claims remain unverified, but the fact they're resurfacing now has reignited debate about how deeply power and silence may be intertwined at the very top of entertainment. If any of this turns out to be true, it wouldn't just shake Jay-Z on a personal level. It would crack the carefully built legacy the Carters have spent decades protecting. This is a couple celebrated as the ultimate symbol of Black excellence, a power duo whose every move is treated like a cultural statement with global impact. But what if that polished image wasn't the full picture? What if behind closed doors, the reality was far messier, with choices made that are only now being questioned? Rihanna's comments didn't accuse anyone outright, but they forced people to ask an uncomfortable question. Who else was in the room when the cameras were off? The documentary may have focused on Diddy's downfall, but Rihanna's words widened the lens. Suddenly, fans are looking beyond one man and toward the powerful circles that surrounded him for years. And here's where things really get thick. Critics say this isn't petty drama or surface-level shade. If alliances start cracking, it could expose long-protected relationships inside the music industry that were built on loyalty and silence. Let's also not forget the long-standing whispers about Rihanna and Jay-Z. Rumors of a past romantic connection were never fully confirmed or denied, but they've lingered for years. If even a fraction of those whispers hold weight, Rihanna's latest move hits different. It raises the question, is this strictly about truth and accountability, or is there something deeply personal fueling her decision to finally speak up? Or is this something even bigger? a calculated move meant to expose a system that allowed powerful men to operate untouched for years. Either way, the timing is impossible to ignore. Diddy is already behind bars, Jay-Z is facing renewed legal scrutiny, and Rihanna's comments don't feel random at all. To many watching, this feels less like a stray comment and more like a direct strike at the core of hip-hop's most protected dynasty. Not loud, not reckless, strategic. And then there's the pattern, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. What if these alleged party secrets involve more high-profile names quietly shielded by money, fame, and influence? The Netflix documentary already hinted at a wider culture of silence, where loyalty was expected and speaking up came with consequences. Former associates like Aubrey O'Day and Rodney Lil Rod Jones described environments where power controlled everything. O'Day, who rose to fame through Bad Boy Records, publicly shared how her career allegedly stalled after refusing advances, while Lil Rod's lawsuit claims he faced pressure and exploitative conditions while working behind the scenes.
So what happens now is this is simply a civil complaint. And in a civil complaint, it goes through the technical legal process. Now, the distinction, Jessica, between civil and criminal, of course, is that civil is for monetary damages, right? The system can only reward you with money. There's allegations that this 13-year-old is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, suffered depression, etc. So now you go to fact find.
These claims remain disputed, but they added serious weight to the documentary's narrative. So if Beyoncé was connected to that same world in any way, as Rihanna suggested without stating outright, it opens a chilling question. How many others knew what was happening? How many stayed quiet to protect their place? And what does that say about the industry's biggest power players, the ones who built massive empires while unspoken agreements kept everything running smoothly behind closed doors? Now let's connect the dots around Jay-Z's own legal scrutiny. A civil lawsuit tied to events from the early 2000s sent shockwaves through the industry when it resurfaced, raising serious questions and forcing renewed public attention. Jay-Z's legal team firmly denied the claims, calling them baseless, and no findings have been made. But the timing of Rihanna's comments has made people look at everything differently. Because if there's even a small possibility that Beyoncé moved within Diddy's circle the way Rihanna hinted, without making direct accusations, it forces a bigger question about silence. Why hasn't Jay-Z spoken more forcefully about Diddy's alleged behavior? Why has Beyoncé stayed quiet too? Some observers now wonder if that silence is less about loyalty and more about protection. Not guilt, not confirmation, but self-preservation in an industry where speaking out can open doors you can't close. If the Carters were ever connected to that world in any meaningful way, the consequences wouldn't stop at personal reputation. The fallout could hit finances, businesses, partnerships, and everything they've built over decades. And the media's role can't be ignored. The Netflix documentary was already a lightning rod, with Diddy's camp attacking it as a biased hit piece built on disputed material. But Rihanna's comments shifted the entire focus. She didn't just challenge the documentary's credibility. She redirected attention toward Beyoncé, a figure treated like royalty by a global fan base that dissects every move. And if even a fraction of Rihanna's hints turn out to matter, this story goes way beyond rumors or rivalry. It becomes about power, proximity, and who was standing where when the spotlight wasn't on. This could unravel the carefully stitched public stories surrounding two of music's biggest dynasties. The question isn't only about what Beyoncé may or may not have done. It's about what she might have known when she knew it, and why nothing was ever said publicly. And here's where things get even more complicated. The documentary already laid out disturbing allegations about Diddy's behavior, including claims that he sought extreme control over people in his orbit. Cassie described feeling trapped in cycles of substance-heavy environments she said she couldn't easily escape. Former assistants also shared chilling accounts, painting a picture of fear, pressure, and intimidation behind closed doors. One former assistant, Capricorn Clark, alleged that Diddy once threatened her with a weapon during a volatile situation tied to personal conflicts. These claims have not been proven, but they added to the documentary's dark portrayal of power being abused. So if Beyoncé was present in any part of this world, as Rihanna suggested, without making direct claims, it forces difficult questions. Was she navigating the same pressures? Was she protected by the system? Or was she somewhere in between, caught inside a structure that rewarded silence? And then there's the men around them. Figures like Jay-Z, who built massive empires while staying publicly distant from these controversies. Critics argue this isn't just about one individual anymore. It's about a network of power players who allegedly benefited from not asking questions for decades. The financial side only raises the stakes higher. Diddy's conviction didn't just lead to prison time, it triggered a financial collapse. His legal team is now facing dozens of civil lawsuits, with more than 50 cases still pending, and an empire once valued in the billions continues to crumble. Meanwhile, Jay-Z's own business history has faced renewed scrutiny, with old financial decisions and past industry associations resurfacing as the spotlight grows hotter and harder to escape. If Rihanna's hints continue gaining traction, the domino effect could be massive. Because if Beyoncé was connected to Diddy's world in any real way, as Rihanna suggested without making direct claims, it naturally raises questions about Jay-Z's own exposure. And let's be clear, this isn't about one old lawsuit or one headline from the past. With Diddy already behind bars, the focus is shifting toward who else might get caught in the fallout as more stories resurface. As the dust settles on Rihanna's explosive call-out, one thing is obvious. If Beyoncé's alleged connection to Diddy's inner circle turns out to be more than rumor, the music industry's polished image could crack wide open. The question is, will the full truth ever come out, or will powerful forces manage to bury it like so many stories before? Right now, all the pieces are on the table. The players are in position, and the entire world is watching every move, every silence, and every headline. So we want to hear from you. Do you think Beyoncé's silence speaks volumes, or is this just another chapter in hip-hop's never-ending power drama? Drop your theories in the comments below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this story. Because in this world, the next bombshell is always just around the corner. Stay sharp, stay curious, and never forget, in the game of fame and power, the truth is the one thing money can't buy.